Crypto products are unregulated and could be highly volatile. Please be aware of the risks before investing.
राज, बाबूजी के आशीर्वाद से हमने अपनी नई शुरुआत तो कर ली, पर अपना फ्यूचर प्लान कैसे करें?
बड़े बड़े शहरों में ऐसी छोटी छोटी बातें होती रहती हैं।
Looking for perfect start? Get a Bitcoin today. Download the Uno Coin app.
जब मैं तेरी उम्र का था ना, तो एक सक्सेसफुल करियर, लॉन्ग टर्म प्लानिंग सब रेडी करके रख चुका था। और एक इन महाराज को देखो, पूरा दिन फोन में लगा रहेगा।
दैट प्लानिंग तो मैंने भी कर रखी है, ऊनो कॉइन के साथ।
नए जमाने के साथ नई चीजें आजमाएं। Looking for Bitcoin? Download the Uno Coin app.
Guys, we really need to work hard. This wasn't a good quarter. Tell me, are you happy with this?
Uno coin.
Want to earn Bitcoin? Just grab your phone and shake it. Download the Uno Coin app.
Bitcoin, 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 Bitcoin.
Get a systematic buying plan from the Uno Coin app to get your Bitcoin today. Download the Uno Coin app.
Okay, dear audience, once again we are back in live for another live session today on self custody. And since it's about Bitcoin, we have our favorite Bitcoin speaker here with us, Mr. Sunny Ray, the president and the co founder of UnoCoin, your favorite crypto exchange. Hi, Sunny, how are you doing today?
Hi, Shambhavi. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Oh, I am amazing. And, as we keep moving closer to halving, I'm getting more and more excited. Oh my God. The excitement is next level. These days, I haven't been able to be much active on Twitter as such, but, I see it everywhere. There's just halving. Even it's just so funny, all the other crypto things that are in existence right now, the entire industry, be it some blockchain technology, some NFT stuff, everybody is excited about Bitcoin halving. I like how Bitcoin has the single-handed power to overturn the entire industry.
That's
in just
true.
one
That's an interesting observation. And yeah, you're right. It's true. Bitcoin kind of leads the pack, and crypto kind of follows around for the ride. And I mean, there's a lot of, I think, negative things to say, obviously, but but creativity, innovation, it's a bit messy, right? And so there's a lot of I'd say like scams and stuff out there, but there is definitely a signal to all this noise, and I think people who can kind of hone in on it, they can benefit but also participate, right? Which is the best thing about this whole industry, is that it's open source, it's like community driven. And yeah, so what's new with you? What do we got? I think custody is going to be the main topic, not maybe the sexiest topic, but definitely important.
Indeed, it's the sexiest topic right now in India because lately a
Oh.
lot of after the FIU's crackdown on most of the international exchanges, this is one question from all the Indian exchanges that how
Great.
self
I love this topic.
yeah, you don't allow withdrawals. So first of all, I need to get into a little bit of detail as to why is self custody so important per se. If it has the power to create such a tempest over Twitter, people asking lots of questions about why is it not allowed, then I mean Unocoin is allowing it. Unocoin understands the importance of you being able to hold your assets. Why is it important?
If I had to put it in one word, control and sovereignty. Yeah, well, those are two words actually. So if I had to put it in two words, I would say control and sovereignty are the two main things, right? So what do I mean by that? Bitcoin, let's maybe narrow in on that, right? Bitcoin is very, very, very unique. It's unique in many, many ways. And one of the most unique things about it is there's this element where Bitcoin uses something called private key, public key cryptography, where where these two essentially come together to be able to unlock your Bitcoin or whatever it might be, right? But the way it's architected is in such a way where that the user actually has the power to hold the private keys themselves. Like, and then the private key is nothing more than just like a bunch of numbers and letters, right? It's just like an alphanumeric, I don't know, so many of them. But once you have your alphanumeric kind of private key to the Bitcoin that you hold, and it can be written on a piece of paper, right? It's literally not that hard to like conceptualize. It's like some space thing. It's like, no, it's actually just like a bunch of numbers and letters. You could write it on a piece of paper. Now, when you have that, you essentially hold the keys to the kingdom. Like it's literally that unlocks the Bitcoin. So how is that different from, let's say, your bank? Let's just use an example, right? So we think we own, for example, the money inside of our bank, right? Because you'd think so, but in reality, let's just play out a hypothetical example. Let's just say there was a lady who did something super terrible and bad, and she just happened to look exactly like you. Okay, and now for whatever reason, the government thought you were the bad guy or the gal, right? Now they could technically just close your bank account, right? Like they can just go with a warrant, and now you don't even have your money anymore. Right? In fact, we saw that example play out in Canada, right? When the trucker movement happened, you and I talked about this. There was a lady or lots of people that had funded money, and the government didn't like it, so they ended up closing all these people's bank accounts. So when those things happen at the edges, you start to realize how powerful Bitcoin is, because Bitcoin does not allow that. Meaning, when you hold, so there was actually a company called Nunchuck that were a part of this like trucker movement, et cetera, where it's like a non-custodial Bitcoin wallet, like kind of like Bull Bitcoin, Francis has built, many others. And so what the people who use that service, their banks were not, their Bitcoin rather was not able to be confiscated because of just the way that Bitcoin works. And so just to come back to it, so again, and the best analogy I would say is gold. Right? So when you buy your gold, let's say at the store, they don't say, hey, keep your gold here, we'll just hold on to it, and you have this piece of paper that, no, you say, I want my gold, I'm taking it home, I'm going to put it in my safe or wherever it might be that that you put it. But you have possession of that gold, it's yours, right? That's something that people can really get their head around. Bitcoin is similar to gold in that sense. When you hold that private key, if you lose that private key, by the way, there's no central CEO or bank, office you can call. Hello, I lost my Bitcoin, private key. Can you help me? So that's the downside of it. You could argue, right? Is that there's with great power comes great responsibility. The famous line from Spider-Man's uncle, I think is important. So just to go back to it again, I would say the number one reason that Bitcoin, is so important to hold your own Bitcoin is because not your keys, not your coins, right? And if you want to, control your own destiny in your future, then this is one of those ways that you can do that, is you can actually hold on to your own Bitcoin. And then even when you hold it in self-custody, there's all these like crazy, like futuristic things that are built into Bitcoin, like multi-sig and etc., which we'll hopefully talk about. But to go back to the why, I think there's a whole bunch of things. Yeah. But does that make sense? Like just control and sovereignty. That's the first, I would say, big one. The second big one, I would say, is security. Right. So when you keep your Bitcoin at a centralized Bitcoin exchange, like let's say even UnoCoin, or any big centralized exchanges, is that we are a honeypot for bad guys, right? Bad guys know that we hold people's Bitcoin, and so they will try and attack us. Now, in 10 years, we've never had a major breach, and we've never, we've been very secure with our funds, and people trust us with their money. But ultimately, as a good steward of this like industry, you have to tell people that, hey, you know what? It's best if you take your Bitcoin, once you're done buying whatever it is you want to buy, your Bitcoin or whatever, you can actually send that money to your own wallet, right? And that can come in the form of a software, app or something like that, like blockchain.com, or there's like all these like wallets out there, right? Blue Wallet, etc., that allow you to hold your own Bitcoin. And then there's also this opportunity around hardware wallets, which is like the next level, if you will, in terms of security. And that's if you're holding, some sizable amount, you're going to want to make sure that you're holding it in the right way. Yeah, does that make sense?
Absolutely. So Sunny, if you remember, we had this session with Aditya where we discussed a lot of interesting things about self custody. We talked about CASA. We talked about so many things over there. The the cold card.
Cold
I
card,
guess.
yeah.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, cold card one. One thing that we did miss over there is telling people how to do self custody. We've had so many talks. We keep having this little chit chats where we talk about the importance and why is self custody needed and why should people hold their own assets. But I see that there's a lot of complexity involved in that process, and you know because technology new, very very sensitive, we need to know how to do it. So if we have to see from a beginner's perspective, Sunny, if say I have to self custody it, in what circumstance first of all should I self custody my bitcoins? Second, what is the easiest way to self custody my bitcoins?
Ooh, it's like the best way to think of it is like what was I gonna say? Like an iceberg almost. Yeah, where there's like the tip of the iceberg, right, which is maybe like the hardware, the centralized exchanges, right, where people hold Bitcoin. And then there's, and maybe I'm going to miss a bunch of these, I'm just kind of trying to come up with an analogy, but then the next layer, let's say right below the water, right, there's like a layer of the iceberg. And you know how like icebergs are like huge underneath the water, right? So this might be kind of an apt example, because cold storage, right? So you have the next layer, which is, you could argue, software app-based wallets where you hold your own private keys. Yeah. So actually, I'm trying to think. There might be another layer above that where paper wallets, right? You got to call out the paper wallet. So you can literally, like I said, you can create a wallet using the Bitcoin, core software. Like literally download it from bitcoin.org. You can actually create your own wallet. You can write that public key down, private key down on a piece of paper, and then you can send funds there. So that's one way to do cold wallet. It's maybe not the most efficient, because if you want to get it out, you need to now integrate it with something. The next layer is like these easy to use wallets, like I said, Blue Wallet, blockchain.com is in my view kind of like the one that's been there forever, right? And what these wallets do is they're just like apps, simple, but when you pull your Bitcoin to that wallet, they actually hold the private keys on the wallet in your phone, not in their servers. It's a subtle difference, but it makes a hell of a difference in the sense that now you can actually click a button on their app, and actually reveal the private keys. So you can see the private keys. And now, again, if you keep those private keys safe, you're okay. Okay, so the next, you're following so far? Yeah. The next layer is around, I would say, hardware wallets. Okay, so this is now Trezor, Cold Card, what's the other one? Ledger, right? So these are the three maybe most famous ones. My favorite is a Cold Card. I love it. In terms of how hard it is to use, have you used a calculator? I mean, to me, I've used calculators that are way harder to use. Like what's it called? You know, the fancy calculators. What's that?
Those engineering ones that,
Yes. So those ones are way more complicated than this. Like literally a Cold Card looks like the most basic calculator, ever. It's like 10 buttons. So now mentally you have to kind of be willing to like stretch a bit beyond your comfort zone, and maybe you need to read a little bit. Like, for example, if you're using a hardware wallet, one part of the process is you need to write down maybe, I forget how many words it is. Yeah, like 40 or 50 words. And that's kind of like your seed phrase. And if you maintain that wallet, that seed phrase, then even if your hardware wallet dies, gets put under water, lights up in flames, whatever, and if you maintain those 50 words, you can essentially re-access your Bitcoin. Yeah, does that make sense? So again, to do that, who wants to sit and write 50 words on a piece of paper? So it's a bit uncomfortable, but it's not hard. Meaning even a 10-year-old you could show them what you're doing and explain it, and they could do it. Yeah. So it's not like, oh, you need to now do calculus or something crazy. It's just, can you write down 10 little words or 50 words? Can you operate a calculator? So broken up, and there's so many YouTube videos out there. BTC Sessions, I think, is from Canada. He's like one of my favorite to watch and binge watch. He explains it. And then let's keep going. And then there's another layer, right? And this is the kind of where it gets really interesting. Is, let's say you're holding a lot of Bitcoin, and you have your hardware wallet, and it's in your house. Well, there's a lot of break-ins that happen, right? So now technically that could be an attack vector. So what smart people do is they'll use something like Casa or Unchained Capital, right? Which leverage this concept called multi-sig, where now, let's say you have a Ledger and a Cold Card and a Trezor, right? And this is more like getting into like, let's say you have a lot of Bitcoin, and a lot is different for different people, right? So whatever, if you consider, you really need to, and you can even have a little bit and start setting these things up. But the point is if you hold it using multi-signature, you're really leaning into, like, I would almost call it military grade security right now. And what you're doing is let's say you have a Ledger, you have a Cold Card, you have a Trezor, you can plug all those in to this Casa kind of wallet. And now and let's say you have one of those in your house, one in the bank vault, and another one buried somewhere where you just remember the GPS, right? Now, a bad guy, even if he breaks into your house, he's not getting your Bitcoin, because you literally need M of N. So in this case, maybe 2 of 3 of the keys, kind of like James Bond, where they have the 2 keys, it's like turn, and then, so it's kind of like that, but you can leverage this thing called, multi-sig. And I think, it probably goes much further than that. You can talk about institutional custody now, and they have regulatory requirements. But I think from a Bitcoin perspective, that's as deep as the iceberg goes. Yeah. At least from my knowledge, unless you're like storing part of your private key on, like, I guess, a satellite or somewhere.
That would
Maybe.
be extreme.
Yeah.
I have a lot of things to cover up for today, but since we've got just 30 minutes, out of which, 20 we have already spent.
Yes.
And
Keep going.
we're definitely gonna have a second part to this session, because we had a lot of requests for this session. Now we have a couple of questions here from NS Kanwal. Not your coin, not your coin, not your
And Shambhavi, I'm still doing the early waking up thing. So if we do this call a couple hours earlier, like 4 hours earlier in the day, if that's possible, then we can start carving out a full hour. Because I know today I'm cutting it short because I have a bunch of meetings and stuff. But usually during the day, my days are really, really jam-packed. So it's hard to fit in, fun stuff like this.
Absolutely.
But we can do it early. I get up at 4 a.m, 3 a.m. So yeah, it'll be.
I'll have to check what time is that in IST accordingly.
Like 1 p.m, 2 p.m. your time.
Okay, 1 p.m, 2 p.m. our time is.
Perfect. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Early.
Exactly. So that's why I wake up early, because it's
Too clever.
yeah. Cool. But we can do another, I guess, 8, 9 minutes, 10 minutes here. But what else you have in terms of questions?
Yeah, we have NS Kanwal here who's saying, not your coins, not your coins. How mixing of addresses is helpful to be anonymous.
I think maybe they're talking about mixers. I don't know. So there's something called CoinJoin, and there's this concept called mixers, and mixers essentially anonymize your Bitcoin. Yeah. So it's kind of like, you could say, like Tor for Bitcoin. It's not 100% proof. There's, I think, some like leakage of information in it, but it's supposed to be, I don't know, I guess one of the best tools. And privacy is something that as soon as you start talking about it, most people, their mind goes towards like, oh, what do you have to hide, like, type of thing, like only bad guys hide. But that's not true, right? The truth is that most people don't want their bank balance, for example, or anything like that to be known to the public, right? Because if you're a business, for example, you don't want your competitors to know how much money you have, or if you're like a high net worth individual, you're not going to want to disclose that kind of information, right? So my point is like CoinJoin and mixers, and they're, again, I don't understand the intricacies of them, but they're essentially tools that people use to anonymize their Bitcoin.
Okay, sounds really interesting. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know.
Bitcoin is a deep well. There's like literally, it's infinite in terms of like just fun things about it, and like game theory, and cryptography, and oh my god, it's just, yeah, it's really, really fascinating. Hey, I was gonna say, oh yeah, go ahead. If there's another question, let's take that. But I was gonna hit on a couple of other like whys behind self-sovereignty. The second one I was gonna say is security. Yeah, security. So if you care about sovereignty, that's the first one. The second one is security. It's far more secure to do what I just described, right? If you do Casa, multi-sig, and if people are interested in stuff like that, we have a relationship with those guys. We know them really well. Jameson, just let us know, and we'll let that demand allow us to enable us to kind of go and do partnerships with them, and do something more meaningful. But Unchained Capital and Casa, check that out. So security is number 2, right? Number 3, which we just touched on, is privacy, right? So why would you want to do self-custody? Privacy, right? Is to just only or whoever you want to know. Resilience, right? And then the last one I would say is just like the trustlessness factor. Like, people come into Bitcoin mostly, or a lot of people come in because they've lost trust in the current system, right? And so if you're trying to now just go to another system, and then you're placing trust in others, it kind of defeats the purpose, like the core purpose of Bitcoin, right? So that's what I'm saying, is like really hardcore Bitcoiners, people who've been in this space for a while, will always talk about the importance of taking custody of your Bitcoin, and essentially holding on to your assets yourself in a private, secure, and self-sovereign way.
That's the beauty of it. I think the entire concept of Bitcoin is based on the fact that you get to have the control of your own money, and that comes with it. So NS here has another question. NS is saying, can we use 2048 words of BIP 39 in any wallet, or only specific wallet which it supports?
Sorry, what was that? So can we use 2048 words of BIP39 in any wallet, or only specific wallets which it supports? I'm not sure the answer to that question. Maybe we can like run this question by Satvik or someone afterwards and get an answer back to him. Yeah.
Venice will have our team answer to your question over there itself. Yeah. And with this, we still have 6 minutes left. I thought we have already crossed our timeline for today. Okay, Sunny, so we can quickly touch on some other important stuff.
Sure.
There. UnoCoin has a very interesting feature called paper wallet. That is the very mark of promoting self custody on our exchange. While all these other exchanges, they have the reasons of not allowing self custody, this and that, XYZ. But with paper wallet, how do we get that off chain, and how do we store it? What is the safest way to store a paper wallet? Like, how do we take care of it?
Well, I mean, so one of the first features that UnoCoin ever built, and it's still available in the more section or whatever, is the ability to, create a paper wallet. Yeah, I think it's just again following a couple of instructions. It's not very difficult. You can actually unplug your computer from the internet at one point as well, and actually generate the key. But the point is, and there's even websites where you can just Google it, right? How to generate paper wallets. It's quite simple and straightforward. But the idea behind a paper wallet is again, so the whole essence of Bitcoin, or not the essence of Bitcoin, but the essence of like this public key, private key thing I was telling you about, like the way to unlock your Bitcoin is ultimately it comes down to just like holding this like set of numbers and letters. Yeah. It's just like alphanumeric A, 1, 2, 3, 7, GA, whatever. And that is all you need. So if that's all you need, it's kind of hard to memorize it. And maybe we can do a whole talk on that one, but there's something called a brain wallet, which is like kind of like paper wallet, but to the next level, where they generate certain words, like the seed, like I was talking about earlier, and you have to remember those words, obviously, right? So if you remember those words, you can unlock your Bitcoin. Now, back to paper wallet. Paper wallet is taking that public key, or sorry, the private key, and essentially recording it on a piece of paper. It's and again, if you have that on a piece of paper and you have it nowhere else, then you can, and then there's obviously an associated public key with it. You can send your Bitcoins to it, and now again, as you hold that paper wallet, you hold the keys to your kingdom, and you have access to your Bitcoin, and you can access it again and do whatever you need to do. So, and then the thing is once you, for example, like, because it works with public key, private key, like your private key, you have to keep it safe and like hidden, and like you shouldn't pull it out all the time. It should be like somewhere super secure. But then the public key you can share with anyone. It's like, on the bottom of your checkbook, you have a bunch of numbers. You can share that with anyone and no one can steal your money. But you wouldn't share the password to your bank, right, account. So sharing your password is like sharing your private key, and sharing the thing at the bottom of your checkbook is like the public key. So essentially, you want to make sure that, you share the public key. Oh, I need to get paid for some work I did. Oh, here's my public key. You can pay to that. And then, boom, it's going into your cold wallet. So it's like a very old school, kind of like very simple way to do self-custody. Yeah. What's the downside of it? The downside is that if that piece of paper, like I said, lights up in flames, or there's a flood in your house, or something bad happens, then you're kind of out of luck, right? So some people will go to the extent of laminating that piece of paper, right? But again, that makes it interesting. If you have to go to a store to laminate it, the person just saw your private key, so maybe that's not the safest. So maybe you need your own lamination tool or something. But these threads kind of go endless in terms of like your paranoia around security, and depending on how paranoid you are, how much Bitcoin you hold, etc. You can devise a system, right, where you are at the driver's seat, right? Which I think is the most exciting thing.
True, that is. And, I have so many things to ask. I have so many things to discuss, but time won't allow us more questions today. And with this, we'll be ending our today's session. But guys, don't worry. We'll be coming up with the second part of this talk very soon, and we'll be discussing and addressing all of your questions that is related to self-custody, how to do it, what is it, XYZ, whatever you want to understand. We'll address all of those questions. So thank you, Sunny, so much for joining in today. Thank you, everyone else, for joining in and watching this session. Make sure to share it, follow us on all of our social media channels, and let us know how do you feel about our this session and what did you get to learn. Thank you so much. We'll see you again next week, same day, same time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.